Okay, let's start off, guys. Yeah, this is the first lesson of A2, and I think you guys are thorough with first lesson of AS also. Sachira, it's good evening. Great. So I think all of you can see the screen, and I hope it's not getting stuck. You all can hear me. Okay, guys. Now we remember the first lesson that we studied was about the basic economic problem, that's scarcity, and all of you all know it. People have unlimited wants but limited resource to satisfy the unlimited wants. So you got to remember, guys, can we eradicate the problem of scarcity? Now if we face scarcity, can we eradicate it? Can we like eradicate scarcity? Guys, it's better if you all can always answer my questions. Yeah, you're right. Vinil, you can't hear because Alisa, can you drop a message to Vinil also? Okay, when it comes to scarcity, you cannot eradicate scarcity. But remember, guys, even though we cannot eradicate scarcity, we can control scarcity. We can control it. What we say is, in economics, we can control scarcity, and how much we control scarcity depends on achieving efficiency. So if you want to eradicate scarcity, yeah, Sachira, I have muted all of you all. So the moment if you all really have to talk, I'll unmute you all individually. I'll give you a time. I'll make unmute then and there. Yeah. So the basic economic problem is scarcity, and we know that we cannot eradicate scarcity, but we can control scarcity to a great extent. How much we control scarcity depends on us achieving something called efficiency, and we call it economic efficiency. So if I say we have achieved economic efficiency, if Sri Lanka has achieved economic efficiency, if Brandix has achieved economic efficiency, if MAS has achieved economic efficiency. So if individually a company has achieved economic efficiency, it means they have controlled scarcity to a greater extent. So achieving economic efficiency is to control the problem of scarcity. So you all remember the first lesson we studied in first year of economics is scarcity. The first lesson that we are studying in A2 is how are we going to control scarcity? So we are going to control scarcity by attaining economic efficiency. And they say if you need to attain economic efficiency, you got to achieve productive and allocative efficiency. So if you attain productive efficiency and allocative efficiency, it means we have attained economic efficiency. So now what we are going to look into is what is this productive efficiency and what is this allocative efficiency. So guys, we know that our basic economic problem is scarcity, and we do know that we cannot eradicate scarcity, but we can control scarcity. Controlling scarcity depends on us achieving economic efficiency. And in order to attain economic efficiency, we say, okay, we have attained economic efficiency depending on whether we have attained productive efficiency and allocative efficiency. Remember, guys, it's not productive or allocative, it's productive and allocative efficiency. Okay, introduction to economic efficiency. The concept is based on the fundamental economic problem of scarcity. Okay, now we know scarcity is when people have unlimited wants but limited resources to satisfy the unlimited wants. The extent to which the problem can be solved depends on how well these scarce resources are used in production of goods and services. So guys, we cannot solve the problem of scarcity, but we can control it to a great extent. So they are clearly saying it, you can control it depending on attaining uh, efficiency. The problem of scarcity could be reduced through economic efficiency. Yeah, Hatfi, it's always great if you all can actually write down notes while I explain. I'll be sending you all the tute after the class, but make sure you copy, write down the notes in your notebook. Okay, now let's see what does this economic efficiency by definition means. Economic efficiency, the optimal use of scarce inputs to produce largest possible output. Okay, guys, we know that resources are limited. We say resources are scarce, and we know that we need to produce goods and services satisfying needs and wants. Guys, economic efficiency means we are using our resource. We are sorry. There's an optimal use of resource. Guys, by definition, what does optimal mean? In English, what does optimal mean? In English, what does optimal mean? Rehan says maximum. So what about the rest? What does optimal mean? Guys, optimal is not actually maximum, guys. It's like this. Let's say uh, I have some chicken with me, and maybe I can either cook shawarma or burgers. Now, let's say with the chicken I have, I can produce up to 100 shawarma or 50 burger. Let's say, guys, people want only 30 burger, and maybe let's say people require 30 burger and around 50 shawarma. Now, guys, maximum is when I produce 100 shawarma or 50 burger. That is the maximum. Now I know, okay, maximum number of shawarma I can make is 100 shawarma or 50 burger. But guys, optimal means I'm producing the best quantity. Now, just because I produce 100 shawarma, people won't buy it. Now, sometimes what you can do is a typical Sri Lankan restaurant. What we can do is, guys, if you produce 100 shawarma, you can sell 50 today and keep the remaining 50 for the next upcoming weeks. People will still buy it. You can change the name of the shawarma. But guys, remember, optimal use of resources means just because I got the chicken, I'm not going to produce 100 shawarma or 50 burger. I'm going to produce the quantity that's required by people. You know that people need 50 shawarma, so I go and produce 50 shawarma. You know that people need 30 burger, you go and produce 30 burger. So optimal use of resource means you produce the best output. There's a difference between best and the maximum. So understand the difference, guys. So achieving economic efficiency means you're not going to produce the maximum, but you're going to produce the best output. Do you understand, guys? Now, for example, I can tell, okay, these guys are interested to study. I can just come and tell, okay, that means I can go up to 5 hours. So, guys, that's the maximum I can do. I can teach you all 5 hours at a stretch. So, I can teach you all 5 hours at a stretch. But just because I can teach you all 5 hours at a stretch, that's my maximum. But that's not the optimal. Optimal is what's best for you all also. So, if you all can study for 2 hours, optimal is I teach for 2 hours and not for 5 hours. So optimal, the best situation that can be attained in particular circumstances. So the best thing that you do at a particular time as required by people is optimal. So just because you can do something and if you do it, it's of no use. So I know, okay, I can cook up to 100 pizza. So maybe I can cook up to 100 shawarma. But just because I'm cooking 100 shawarma, what if people do not buy it at all? Then it's useless. So if people require a particular quantity and if you produce that quantity, that means you're using your resources up to optimum use. Economic efficiency can only exist when there is productive efficiency and allocative efficiency. So now we told economic efficiency is when you're going to use your resource up to its optimum. Now we have to see, okay, what is this optimum? Okay, optimum is maximum, the best use. So how am I going to find out what's the best use? In economics, if you want to find out what's the best use, you have to look at productive efficiency and something called allocative efficiency. So if we say, if you attain productive and allocative efficiency, you're attaining economic efficiency. Okay, now let's look at productive efficiency at the beginning. So guys, can you all tell me what does being productive mean? Guys, what does being productive mean? Guys, quick, I don't expect my students to be this lazy, huh? I think I gave the answer already. Guys, productive in English means, or in economics means, being productive means, okay, Sachira says increasing output and being effective. Hatfi says producing the maximum with given output. Okay, guys, both of you have given the correct explanation. Now let's say I'm going to teach for 2 hours. And maybe my capacity in 2 hours is to finish 2 chapters. Guys, being productive means if I am going to use 2 hours, I finish 2 chapters. So if my ability is to finish 2 chapters in 2 hours, if I am productive, it means I will finish the 2 chapters. If I am not productive, will I finish more than 2 chapters or less than 2 chapters? If I'm not productive, will I finish more than 2 chapters or less? I finish less than 2 chapters. So basically, through this, I can tell, okay, in 2 hours, Nafis can finish 2 chapters. That means in 1 hour, he can finish how many chapters? Exactly. In 1 hour, he can finish 1 chapter. So guys, productive efficiency means you are being productive, meaning you're doing the maximum. You're doing the maximum possible thing. Now they say, guys, make sure you all use your time productively. So if you know that in 1 hour you can do one past paper completely, being productive means you're doing that one past paper. Okay, I'm going to finish that one paper today. So if you're being productive, one paper is done today. That is productive efficiency in economics. So we define productive efficiency as you produce the maximum output using minimum resources. Now guys, let's go to our usual example, the chicken example I was giving about shawarma. Now let's say I have a rule, okay. I'm going to use maybe 100 grams of chicken per shawarma. That means guys, if I'm going to make 2 shawarma, how many chicken should I use? 200, exactly, I'm going to use 200 grams. This means I have achieved productive efficiency. Because guys, sometimes what happens is, now let's say, okay, in your restaurant, you have a new chef and this fellow comes without training. And maybe he knows, okay, I'm going to use 100 gram per food, 100 gram per shawarma. But what happens at that particular moment is, when he is new, he might end up wasting a lot. Sometimes guys, sometimes you might see your sisters cutting chicken. Now when they do it guys, they might be needing the boneless chicken and they might be wasting the remaining pieces, like trying to get the okay, it might sound wrong, okay, you all know, okay, trying to get the flesh, they might end up wasting the rest of the parts. So me sometimes, if you are to use 100 grams, people end up wasting 120 grams. Just like that guys, now you're going to use 200 grams for 2 shawarma, but sometimes people will end up wasting around 250 grams. Now guys, think like this. If I waste 250 grams for 2 shawarma, am I being productive? Exactly, I'm not being productive. I'm not being productive. So being productively efficient means, if I know I'm going to use 100 grams, I'm supposed to use 100 grams. That means for 2 units, you're supposed to use 200 grams. For 3 units, you're supposed to use 300 grams. Meaning you're using, to produce this particular output, you're using the minimum input. The moment I use 400 grams for 3 shawarma, it means I am being productively inefficient. So remember that very well. So productive efficiency means you're producing the maximum output with the minimum resources. Now, for example, if I'm going to use 2 hours, I'm going to teach 2 chapters. Let's say I'm going to use 2 hours to teach 1 chapter. I can clearly tell, okay, this person Nafis is productively inefficient. Why is that, guys? Efficiently, I can teach 1 chapter in how many hours? If I'm efficient, how many hours should I take for 1 chapter? Exactly, I should take only 1 hour. So basically, something that you can do in 1 hour, you're taking 2 hours. So it's useless. Now, just like guys, when you're playing a Call of Duty COD game, if you know in a 10 minutes deathmatch, if you can take 15 kills based on your past experience, that means if you make 15 kills, that means you're productively efficient. Let's say you take 5 kills, that means you're productively inefficient, guys. No, I'm not encouraging you to go and kill, guys. So remember, productive efficiency is you're doing the maximum with what you have and nothing less than the maximum. Okay, productive efficiency. This occurs when the products are made with the least possible use of scarce resources. When firms produce at the lowest possible cost. Okay, as I told, with the resources, you are producing the maximum. And at the same time, I'm told your cost is minimized. Guys, we say when you're productively efficient, the cost is minimized. Now, let's say I'm going to take 2 people. Okay, let's say I'm going to take Rayhan and maybe I'm going to take Hatfi. And I'm going to pay both of these people rupees 1,000. And they are going to work with me in my restaurant. Yeah, Rayhan, you're worth only 1,000. Sorry, yeah. Maybe with experience, with some experience, I'll pay you more. So let's say, okay, I'm going to pay these people 1,000, and they're going to come to my restaurant and work with me. And this fellow Rayhan, let's say, he makes 50 shawarma, 50 units. Maybe the remaining 50 he obviously eats. And let's say Hatfi can make 100 units. My first question is, who's more productive? Who's more productive? Is it Hatfi or Rayhan? It's it's Hatfi who's more productive. So I can say this fellow is the productive guy. Now guys, let's look at the average cost per person, and I think all of you know how to calculate the average cost. Now Raihan's average cost is, it's his total cost over quantity, and Hatfi's average cost is the total cost over quantity. And I do know that I pay this person Raihan $1,000, he produces 50 units. I pay Hatfi $1,000, he produces 100 units. So what is Raihan's and Hatfi's cost per unit individually? Exactly. So I can clearly see Raihan's cost per unit is 20 and Hatfi's cost per unit is 10. So who, who should I employ? Like, who is better off? Like, with whom am I better off? Employing Hatfi or Raihan? Yeah, Raihan says that he's not cheap. Great. So employing Hatfi, I am better off now, because the thing is, now the moment Hatfi makes a product, my cost is $10. The moment Raihan makes a product, my cost is $20. Guys, in order for me to make a profit, should I charge a higher price than the cost or lower price than the cost? In order for me to make a profit, so we know price minus average cost is my profit. So I know that in order to make a profit, I should charge a higher price. For example, let's say, okay, I'm going to make a profit of $5. So I have a target profit of 5. That means for Hatfi, for Hatfi's product, I will charge a price of 15, which gives me a profit of 5. And for Raihan's product, I'll charge a price of 25. Both will give me a profit of 5. Guys, now you can see, initially, Hatfi was more productive because he made 100 units. And because he was more productive, my average cost was lower. And when my average cost is lower, will I end up charging a higher price or lower price? Exactly. So Hatfi, because of Hatfi, my cost is 10, and therefore I charge a price of 15. While Raihan, the less productive worker, the cost is 20, I charge a price of 25. So you can see, when a work is more productive, cost comes down, and when the cost comes down, I can reduce my price. And if I can reduce my price, can I gain a competitive advantage or not? If I reduce my price, will I gain an advantage or not? Exactly. If I reduce my price, I can gain an advantage. Because now I can say, okay, the moment Hatfi makes a product, I can sell it for 15 bucks. I can sell for 15 bucks, and then I can, the customers would prefer to come and buy from me because I'm selling at a low price. The moment Hatfi leaves and Raihan comes, I will sell at 25 bucks. And the customers would ask, okay, what's the special thing you have right now? It's the same, it's the very old food. And you're going to charge 25 for the same very old food. Okay, you're going to charge the 25 for the same old food. I'm going to lose my existing customers. Sometimes, guys, maybe there's a chance that Rehan can use some special ingredient. Maybe he uses inbuilt salt, like, like the Kotukadeno, like maybe he uses his personal salt. Okay, guys, in a situation like this, you can see when you're productive, output increases. And we know that average cost is total cost over quantity. And when output increases, what happens to average cost, guys? When quantity increases, average cost will, exactly, average cost will fall. So reducing the average cost means, guys, what will happen to the firm's profitability? When cost comes down, what happens to your profit? You're right. When cost comes down, profit increases. So this is what I had explained under productive efficiency just a little while earlier. So you can say when firm produce, it is when firm produces at its lowest cost. A firm is productively efficient when it is making the best use of resources and producing at the lowest cost possible. For example, it can apply where a car assembly plant is using most up-to-date technology, minimizing cost of producing each vehicle. Guys, if whenever you ask about technology, one good example you would have always studied in business studies is this company Toyota, guys. Toyota is really popular for its just-in-time system. It is also part of technology. What just-in-time system is over here is, guys, Toyota basically has zero stock. So stock arrives as and when required. So most of the companies, one of the biggest costs they incur is the warehouse. Now, for example, okay, maybe Toyota has to store its tires, maybe steering wheels, and in addition to that, maybe they have to store their engines. It looks like a smiley. So more a company like Toyota, guys, they need to stock so much of resources, so much of inputs, raw materials. So they need to have a warehouse, which should be massive. And not only that, guys, they need proper monitoring. They need a proper CCTV camera. They need proper securities, which would result in a very high cost. So employing something like the JIT system made them reduce their cost because the stock arises only when it's required. So when that happens, the entire warehouse cost is almost put to zero. Is almost gone to zero. Therefore, guys, when a large company invests in new production techniques, invests in new technology, their average cost comes down. And therefore, they would end up making higher profits. So, guys, even this is being productive because rather than spending on something like warehouse, they are not spending on it anymore because they know that they can run their business even without a warehouse. Even that's being productively efficient. Now in my restaurant, I can tell, okay, at the moment I have a cooker with just 2 burners. Now I can, guys, I can expand and have a cooker with 4 burners. And now I'm going with 4 burner cooker. So now with the same time, okay, maybe in 1 hour I can bake 2 food because I have only 2 burners. But now within the same 1 hour, I can bake 4 food because I have 4 burners. So you can see in the same 1 hour, you're using the time productively. So sometimes when the companies are productive, they end up investing in better technology. Better technology, what the result of a better technology is with the same time, with the same resources, you're going to produce more than before. Exactly, Sachin, you're right. So guys, you can have a read through it and see whether you can actually understand it too. Guys, if you see the image I put, I'm getting some questions such as why do people have more arms? It's like with one arm, you guys do so many things. So basically, what this is what they mean by that. Huh? Within the same time, you're managing to use your phone, laptop, and within that productive time, you're making sure that you're writing notes and everything. Okay, now productive efficiency in a firm. Guys, my question, first question. If you are productively efficient, are you producing? Okay, if you're productively efficient, what are you doing? Are you increasing your output or reducing your output? My question is, if you're productively efficient, what happens to your output? What happens to your output? Obviously, you're going to increase your output and you're going to maximize the output. Guys, I told that if you're going to maximize your output, now we know that average cost is total cost over quantity. Whenever quantity goes up, what happens to average cost? Whenever denominator increases, what happens to average cost? Exactly. Whenever your denominator increases, average cost falls. Exactly, Raihan. It means the quantity is increasing. So you can see when someone is productive, you can think of the example I gave about Raihan and Hatfi. I told Raihan is Hatfi is productive. He makes 100 units. Hatfi is less productive. Hatfi is productive. He makes 100 units. Raihan is less productive. He makes 50 units. So you can see when someone is productive, output increases, average cost falls. And we say if you're productively efficient, you maximize your output, meaning the output goes up to the highest. Guys, if output goes up to the highest, average cost would go to continue. If output is maximized, cost is yeah, Hafi, you are correct. If output is maximized, cost will increase, but what will happen to the average cost? That's my question. Exactly, if quantity goes up, average cost is minimized. So remember, okay, whenever quantity goes up, average cost falls. Sorry, whenever quantity goes up, average cost falls. That means, guys, whenever quantity is maximized, average cost is minimized. So if you ask me, when does an economy attain productive efficiency? My answer for that is when, what shows that you have attained productive efficiency? It is when you have minimized your cost. So if you have minimized your cost, it means you have attained productive efficiency. Do you understand that bit, guys? Perfect. So productive efficiency in a firm. It is understood that productive efficiency occurs when a firm produces at the lowest possible cost. This can be shown through a diagram which illustrates an average total cost of a firm. Guys, now think like this. We have short run average cost and long run average cost. And this particular thing that I'm going to explain, guys, most of the time, and even in your exams, it's better if you draw your long run average cost. Don't go with your short run average cost. The reason is, guys, if you look at your examiner Terry Cook, he has drawn an average cost curve. So I'll be explaining that also. He has drawn average cost curve, not just long run average cost. He has drawn average cost, basically is meaning short run average cost. So I'll explain that later. But first I'll be explaining in terms of long run average cost, which is much more logical when we are going to do this particular chapter called production function. It's there in chapter 2. We'll be doing production function. Then you will understand the logic behind it. Now you can see a firm would have its quantity and they would have their average cost. And we'll be studying this, guys. Long run average cost takes a U shape. Productive efficiency means, guys, if you're on the long run average cost, you're productively efficient. For example, let's say you're going to produce a quantity like Q naught. And let's say you produce Q naught at point A. Now my first question is point A on the LRAC? Is point A on the LRAC? Exactly, point A is on the LRAC. So remember guys, if point A is on the LRAC, I say I am productively efficient for Q naught. For Q naught, if I produce at C naught, I am productively efficient. Now let's say guys, I'm going to go to this particular point. Okay, let's say I'm going to produce Q naught at point B at C1. Now guys, you can see I'm producing Q naught at a cost of C1. Is it a higher cost or lower cost? It's a higher cost. So what I say is guys, if you're going to produce Q naught at point B, that is C1, you're productively inefficient. So as long as Q naught is produced at point A, you're productively efficient. And let's say, okay, you're going to produce Q1 at point B, sorry, at point C. First thing that you have to see is this point C on the LRAC? Is it on the LRAC? It is on the LRAC. It is on the LRAC. So remember guys, if you produce Q1 at point C, are you productively efficient? Are you productively efficient? You are. You are. Because guys, you look at the particular quantity and see whether that quantity is produced on the LRAC. So as long as you're on the LRAC, you're productively efficient. Guys, remember something like this. Now, if this is the LRAC, if this is Q naught, if I'm at point A, it means this is the minimum cost for Q naught. If this is the minimum, guys, it means you can't produce it at a price of B because A is the minimum. So is B possible? Is B possible? Is B possible? Exactly. B is not possible. It's like this guys. Now, for example, if they say B, A is the minimum, it's like A is 0 marks. It's not possible to score less than 0. Sometimes they might say, okay, I'm going to give you -5, but logically it is not possible to score less than 0. So minimum is the lowest point. So for particular quantity Q naught, if you're producing at A, it means you're producing at the minimum cost. Minimum cost means, how do you identify minimum cost? As long as you're on the long run average cost, you are producing at the minimum cost. Now for Q1, now if you produce Q1, you go towards the LRAC, simple as that. So minimum cost is point B. Sorry, minimum cost is okay. I'll make it point B. Will you? Minimum cost is point B. Sometimes you might think, okay, why is this point not the minimum? You might ask me, why is this point not the minimum? Guys, I can tell this point is the minimum for this output QX. Meaning, guys, only when you're producing QX, you can produce at this point, maybe point Z. Let's say you're going to increase your output to this point, Q2. The moment it comes to Q2, is it possible to produce at a lower cost like Z? Is it possible to produce at a cost like Z? No, right? You have to always see, the moment you're going to increase your output, the minimum cost you can produce is go towards the curve. The minimum cost you can produce it is at this particular point, maybe point Y. Rayhan, if you ask me what is this QX, QX is basically the quantity that gives you the lowest possible cost. Now, okay, if you look at this thing, now I'll say, okay, the lowest cost for Q1 is B. the lowest cost for Q naught is A. Similarly, the lowest cost for Qx is Z. Yeah, Haskell, I'll explain that point. I'll come to that point. Lowest cost for Qx is Z. Meaning, guys, it is impossible to produce Q1 at Z. Meaning, if you look at Q1, you can produce only at B because that is the point on the LRAC. So if you ask me what is the best output to be produced, my answer is Qx. Okay, I'm getting a lot of question about Qx. Okay. Guys, once again, this is a common problem most of students have. Now let's say, okay, this is the LRAC curve. And let's say this is point X. And I'll mark it as point A. Now, if I ask you, if I'm going to produce Qx, the lowest possible cost I can produce Qx is at A. Because A is on the LRAC. A is on the LRAC. It is the lowest possible cost. Now let's say I'm going to increase, I want to increase my output. Let's say my demand has increased. Now let's say people want to buy more of my shawarma. I want to increase my output. Now let's say I'm going to increase my output to Q1. The moment I am going to increase my output to Q1, it touches my LRAC at point B. That means, guys, can I produce Q1 at a cost like A anymore? Can I produce Q1 at a cost like A anymore? No, right? The moment you're going to produce Q1, you can see the cost is going to rise and the minimum cost is B. Meaning, guys, to produce Q1, the minimum cost possible is B, not A. Because A can be attained only if you produce at which output? You can attain A only at what output, guys? Exactly. You can attain A only if you produce Qx. Let's say, okay, your demand reduced. Now, guys, just because your demand reduced, it's useless producing Qx. Now, let's say you're going to produce less. Maybe you're going to produce Q naught. If you want to produce Q naught, once again, if you want to look at the lowest cost, go towards the LRAC. It touches at point C. Now, can you now what's the minimum cost for Q naught, guys? What's the minimum cost for Q naught? What's the minimum cost for Q naught? Exactly. Minimum cost for Q naught is C. So yeah, it's like this. Now I'm saying I'm going to produce Q naught at the minimum cost C. So we know that if we produce at the minimum cost, we are attaining productive efficiency. If you produce at the minimum cost, you're attaining productive efficiency. So producing Q naught at C means you're attaining productive efficiency. Producing Qx at A means productive efficiency. Q1 at B means productive efficiency. But guys, what is the lowest possible cost? What is the lowest possible cost? Exactly. Lowest possible cost is A. And can I attain A at any output? Can I attain A at any output? No, right? You can attain A only at Qx. So I say if you produce Qx, you're attaining the lowest possible cost. That is also called minimum efficient scale. So my conclusion from this is, guys, any point on the LRAC means you are productively efficient for that particular output. Now, if I'm going to put my Qx as, let's say, okay, I'm going to put my Qx as 100. But guys, let's say your demand is 80. Let's say you have a demand of 80. Guys, if your demand is 80, is it worth producing 100? Is it worth producing 100? If your demand is 80, is it worth producing 100? No, right? Now people are demanding 80. Nikang kila you can produce 100. No, you will produce 80. You will produce 80. Now we say the moment you are going to produce 80, can you attain point A, guys? Can you attain point A? The moment you're going to produce 80 units, can you attain point A? No, right? But can you attain point C? Exactly, you can attain point C. So I say, if you produce 80 at point C, it is on the LRAC, you are productively efficient. Because guys, LRAC shows the minimum cost for a particular output. For Q naught, it is point C. That means guys, can I produce Q naught at a cost lower than C? Can I produce it at a cost like this? Exactly, I cannot produce at a lower cost. So whenever you draw the LRSC curve, guys, remember LRSC long run average cost shows the minimum cost. And we know that you can attain the minimum cost only if you produce the maximum output. So any point on the LRSC curve shows you're productively efficient for a given level of output. It's not just the minimum point, it's not just point A, guys. It's every point like point A, B, C, D, E, F. All the points on the LRSC curve is productively efficient. Did you understand this, guys? Great. And I'll put the minimum point. I'll say the minimum, I'll name the minimum point as point X, and I'll put it as QX. Point X, QX. Thank you, Sachira. So producing at the lowest point on the LRAC indicates technical efficiency. This is identified as minimum efficient scale. So if I ask you what is the minimum efficient scale, remember minimum efficient scale is the lowest possible cost that is possible. That is possible for you to attain. And you can attain the minimum efficient scale only if you produce which output in this example. In this particular example, at which output can you attain the minimum efficient scale? Exactly, at QX, at QX. And remember guys, if you're going to produce Q naught, if you produce at A, you're efficient. If you produce at B, you're not efficient. Q1, if you produce at C, you're efficient. If you produce at D, you're not efficient. Okay, so guys, this is the explanation that's mostly required under productive efficiency. But guys, sometimes there's another scenario that you have to remember. It is what your examiner Terry Cook has given. But I'll be focusing on the first diagram, guys. Most of the time, even your teachers, most of them, because that is only what is technically correct. What this person Terry Cook told was a business, a firm will have many average cost curve. And he technically means short run average cost. But we rather draw average cost curve. I'm doing it, guys, because it's there in his textbook. That's why I'm doing it. Otherwise, there's no use of doing it. You can always focus on the first diagram. But he has given this diagram, so I'm explaining this. What Terry Cook told was there are many average cost curve. A firm has many average cost curve. Maybe you have average cost 1, average cost 2, average cost 3. Being productively efficient means you should be on the lowest average cost, it seems. So I have 3 average cost now. What is my lowest average cost? What is my lowest average cost? Exactly. My lowest average cost is AC3. To be productively efficient, he says that you have to be in the lowest average cost. And what he says is you have to be on the lowest point of the lowest average cost. First thing I go and identify my lowest average cost. Okay, this is AC3. And after identifying that, guys, I should look at the lowest point. So you can see it is going down like this. And the lowest point is somewhere here. I'll mark it as point X. QX. So this is what Terry Cook told, guys. What Terry Cook told was to be productively efficient, a firm has so many average cost curves. Like one each below each other or above each other. Like AC1, for example, in my case, I have AC1, AC2, and AC3. To be productively efficient, you should be on the lowest average cost curve, meaning you should be on AC3. And on the lowest average cost curve, you should be on the lowest point. That is, you should produce QX at a cost of X, meaning at a cost of C1. This is the second explanation Terry Cook gave. So average cost 0 quantity, guys, always better if you all can copy, if you all copy it parallelly. AC1, AC2, AC3. To be productively efficient, you should be on AC3. And then you should be on the lowest point of AC3. I'll mark it as point X. Mark it as quantity X. Did you all understand this, guys? Perfect. Great, guys. Let's continue. Guys, we can also show productive efficiency in terms of an economy. For example, now let's say, okay, I want to go, say, okay, Sri Lanka is attaining productive efficiency. Yeah, Hajfi, exactly. That's why this is the diagram given by this person, Terry Cook, but we always ought to go with the first one. So that's what I say. First one is recommended, guys. This diagram is recommended. But just remember the second one is also there. Okay. The other way is, guys, productive efficiency can be shown in terms of an economy. Now, guys, in the first lesson we studied in AS, we studied something called production possibility curve, right? I'll unmute all of you all. You all can give the explanation, like what does production possibility curve mean? Okay, Saduksha is volunteering to give the answer. Okay, Vinuli, what does production possibility curve mean? Oh, it's nice to see my kids are shy. Okay, guys, production possibility curve. We have done that, guys. Production possibility curve is a graphical representation of the maximum output of two goods that can be produced with a given number of resources. Exactly, Sachin, you're correct. Guys, now when we draw a demand curve, price and quantity, I'll ask a basic question. Guys, a demand curve means, is it D or the entire diagram? What's a demand curve? Is it just the curve or the entire diagram? What does a curve mean, guys? Exactly, Vinil, you are right. A curve means just the D, guys. It's just this thing. It's now just like that, guys. When we have production possibility curve, let's say okay, most of the time we go with capital goods and consumer goods, and we draw a PPC like this. Production possibility curve means production possibility curve. It's just the pink line. It's just what's on pink. That's only our production possibility curve. Guys, you don't even have to by heart the definition. Production possibility curve means it is a curve that shows the production that is possible. Meaning it is possible to produce along the pink line. Guys, if it is possible along the pink line, is it possible to produce beyond the pink line? No, right? Is it possible to produce less than the pink line, below the pink line? Exactly. So now, guys, in A2, you don't even have the definition of PPC is not tested. But if you think, okay, what is production possibility curve? It is a curve that shows the production that is possible, meaning it is possible to produce along the pink line. Remember that very well. So, guys, in other words, it shows the maximum output, no? Do you understand? It shows the maximum output. Because by definition, we mean production possibility curve is a graphical representation that shows the maximum output of two products. Now you can see this is the maximum output. The pink line shows the maximum output. So can you produce more than the maximum? No. Can you produce less than the maximum? Yes. Can you produce the maximum? Can you produce the maximum? Yes, you can produce the maximum. So guys, point A, it is on the PPC. So am I producing the maximum? Point A on the PPC. So yes, I'm producing the maximum. Guys, if you are producing the maximum, are you productively efficient? Great, guys. If you're producing the maximum, you're productively efficient. Even, so if I ask you, okay, point B, point C, point E, point F, are all these points on the PPC? Yeah, guys, so all those points are on the PPC. And you know, if you're on the PPC, you're producing the maximum, and to produce the maximum, you should be productively efficient. So guys, remember, all the points on PPC shows you're productively efficient, not just point A. It's point A, point B, point C, point F, point E, all those points. Do you understand? Let's go a bit towards the basic, guys. Now, when we have a PPC like this, now let's say you're in point A. Are you producing the maximum? No, right? Point A, you're not producing the maximum. Not that means are you productively efficient or not? Exactly, you're not productively efficient. Because we know that, guys, we have studied that also. Any point below the PPC shows unemployment and or inefficiency. Correct, Sachira. Or short-term recession. That means all the point on the PPC shows there is efficiency. So if I ask you, what is the other way to show that you have attained productive efficiency? Just draw a PPC, mark any point on the PPC that shows you are productively efficient, because to be on the PPC, you should produce the maximum. When will you produce the maximum? If you are efficient. So that's what I've given. Productive efficiency can be shown in relation to a whole economy rather than just a particular firm. The production possibility curve, which was introduced in chapter 1, will help to clarify productive efficiency. This curve shows the maximum production points for combination of any goods. For example, let's go with capital goods and consumer goods. Given this, productive efficiency can only exist when an economy is producing right on the boundary of its PPC. We prefer to go with capital goods and consumer goods, guys. And also, we automatically make the assumption that there are only two goods. So you can even put manufactured goods, agricultural goods, doesn't matter. But what's better is capital goods and consumer goods. Okay. Now, let's look at first point. A point inside the PPC, Kelmark. A point inside the PPC, such as point A, shows that there are unused resources, inefficiency, and hence productive efficiency is not achieved because the maximum output is not produced. Because guys, when do you produce the maximum output? If you're producing the output, where should you be? If you're producing the maximum output, where should you be? Yeah, Vinil, you are correct. You should be on the PPC. Now let's say, guys, okay, I'm going to mark two other points. Point B and point C. A point on the PPC such as B or C shows that all resources are fully used efficiency, and hence productive efficiency is achieved because the maximum output is produced with available resources. So guys, are you okay with the logic why any point on the PPC shows that you're productively efficient? Okay, great. So once again, guys, if I ask you what is productive efficiency, you're producing the maximum output with the minimum resources. So think, a productive efficiency means you're producing the maximum output. Maximum output means you're on the PPC. And also, you know that when you are produce the maximum output, you are on the minimum cost. When the output is maximized, cost is minimized. That's why we told even staying on the LRAC means cost is minimized. And guys, I've given a point over here. Competition is one of the most important factor that leads to productive efficiency. Guys, now think like this. Now let's say I have a monopoly in my shawarma business. Therefore, guys, whenever you are hungry and if you want to have a monopoly, you have just one choice. You just come to, okay, let's go to Nafiz's shawarma. Arabian Nafiz. Okay, let's say you come and buy from me that food. And now I know that, okay, I have the monopoly. I personally know that, okay, I have the monopoly. Therefore, guys, I personally know because I have the monopoly, I can charge any price I want because customers do not have any choice. Now, let's say my average cost is 30. And let's say let's say my average cost is, let's go realistic. Let's say my average cost is 200. And maybe I want a profit of 100. What's the price I will charge, guys? You're right, Hatfi. What's the price I'm going to charge? Okay, now let's say my cost is 200 and I want a profit of 100. That means what price should I charge? Exactly, I should charge 300. Because guys, you can see 300 minus cost of 200 gives me a profit of 100. So note this point very well. Now let's say there are competitors coming in. Let's say now people like Sachira, Saduksha, Jenice, all of these people saw, okay, Nafis is making good money by selling shawarma. Now I also have a special recipe. Now I'll also come and compete with Nafis. And competition starts to come in. Guys, the moment I feel the competition, there are only two ways I can gain my market. One way is by having a higher quality or a brand name. One way I can hold my market is by having a higher quality, okay, by having a special recipe or having a brand name. The moment they think of shawarma, it goes as Nafis. Like the moment you think of burger, it's McDonald's, but the moment you think of shawarma, you go as Nafis. One thing is exactly, Sachira. One way I can capture my market is through increasing the quality. Guys, what's the second way? Sachira always gave the Sachira already gave the answer. Now, if there's high competition, what's the other way I can capture my market? Exactly, by charging a lower price. Guys, and remember, economics is very theoretical. Economics is bit ancient. The quality factor is seen under business studies. So we don't know in economics. I don't know something called quality. The only thing I can capture the market is doing what then? If I'm an economist, the only way I can capture the market is doing what? By reducing my price. Exactly, I'm going to reduce my price. So now I know because of competition, I'm going to reduce my price. Maybe I was selling for 300, now I'm going to sell for 250. So my price is 250, cost is 200. Will my profit increase or reduce? Earlier my profit was 100. Exactly, my profit falls to 50. So you understand that when there's competition, you're forced to reduce your price, and when you're forced to reduce your price, your profit comes down. And we do know that objective of any firm or even myself is to maximize my profit. Now let's say I want to maximize my profit. Can I go and increase my, okay, logically, okay, my profit is price minus cost. When there's competition, can I, okay, there are two ways I can increase my profit. No, what are the two, based on the formula, what are the two ways I can increase my profit? Based on this profit for equation, okay, based on the profit equation, how can I increase my profit? Profit is price minus cost. No, exactly, profit is price minus cost. So the two ways I can increase my profit is increase my price or reduce my cost. Guys, when there is competition, can I increase my price? When there's competition, can I increase my price? No, right? So this option is gone. But can I reduce my cost? Exactly, I can reduce my cost because that is part of my internal production techniques. So I can reduce my cost. So I know that I want to maximize my profit. When there's competition, I can maximize my profit only by reducing my cost. And we do know that you can minimize your cost by doing what? By being what? When is your cost minimized? When you are Exactly, when you are productively efficient. So one factor that makes you be productively efficient is competition. So competition can be seen to lead to productive efficiency. In general terms, this is the case as firms are constrained to produce at the lowest possible cost in a competitive market. Yeah, Sachin, sometimes monopoly is also true because monopoly has extra money which would make them invest more on technology, which would reduce their cost. Firms have the incentive to of profit to make their product at the lowest possible cost. The lower the cost, the greater the profit. Alternatively, failure to produce at the lowest cost means you might go to you might end up being bankrupt. Because guys, if you don't produce at the lowest cost when there's competition, if you don't produce at the lowest cost, if you do not make the profit, you would be sent out of the market. As rivals produce at lowest cost, the price for the firms that has failed to minimize the cost will be too high, and thus there will be low demand. Because we know that there are two companies that are trillion-dollar companies. Guys, if you ask me what's $1 million, it's dollar 60. $1 billion 90. And guys, in Sri Lanka, we have only one company that has reached $1 billion. That's Harris. Harris. Guys, if you ask me who's the richest person, I think all of you know it's Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. Guys, Jeff Bezos' net worth is almost 143 billion right now, meaning it is 143 times a company like Harris. Okay, Jeff Bezos is 143 times richer than Harris, and Sri Lanka's GDP is less than 143 billion. And guys, if you ask me what is $1 trillion, add three more zeros. Only two companies have reached $1 trillion. That is Apple, the first company, and just weeks after Apple, it was Amazon. One reason Apple and Amazon reached that $1 trillion, one reason they made that massive profit is, guys, okay, they are selling, Apple sells their product at a very high price. Obviously, profit goes up. And also, guys, they minimize their cost. Because if you look at Apple, every time when they come up with a technology, what they do is they do not bring in a technology, they remove an existing technology. For example, earlier they had a headphone jack, but now they do not have it. Removing a headphone jack, they say it's an innovation. But removing a headphone jack means, guys, they are cutting down their cost. And not only that, guys, if you look at a company like Apple, what they do perfect is they sell their product as a bundle. Now what they say is, okay, now you don't have to put now it's difficult to charge your phone and use your headphone at the same time now. Now rather buy our AirPod. They sell their phone for 150,000, they sell their AirPod for 40,000. And except for countries like Sri Lanka, majority of the people abroad they end up buying the AirPod. So competition makes companies to think different and maximize their profit. Guys, do you all have any doubts as of yet? I'll unmute all of you all. And during that particular time, all of you all can take a rest also. What about the rest? Okay, I hope you guys are thorough with it. Then I'll continue. Well, I'll give you all a minute break, guys. Otherwise, I think you'll get a headache looking at your phone or laptop for a long period of time. All right, guys. Now we told Sachir, you don't have to worry about. Okay, now we told to attain economic efficiency. Okay, now we started off with the problem. Our common problem is scarcity. We can't eradicate it, but we can control it by attaining economic efficiency. And in order to attain economic efficiency, we should attain two subcategories. That's productive efficiency and allocative efficiency. Productive efficiency means you're producing the maximum output with the minimum resource. For example, guys, now if, for example, I told, okay, in 1 hour, if I can teach one chapter, that means if I'm going to do two chapter, that means I have to use only 2 hours, not more than 2 hours. If I'm going to do three chapter, I should take 3 hours. If I take four chapter, if I take 4 hours, that means I'm taking more. So I'm very inefficient. The other thing is something called allocative efficiency. Guys, think I'll give you a easy way to remember. Productive looks at our input resources. Easy way to easiest way to remember. If you're productively efficient, you look at your input and you see whether your input is productive. You see whether your input is producing the maximum. That is productive efficiency. You see whether your labor is productive. You see whether you're going to use your ingredients properly, whether you're going to use your time properly. Sachir, you're correct. You're correct. Allocative efficiency is to do with the output. Meaning, are we allocating resources to the right amount of output? Now, guys, now let's say I'm going to use 100-gram chicken for one of my burger. Okay, let's say I'm going to use 100-gram chicken for one of my burger. And let's say I'm going to employ a hyperactive person like Ravish. And let's say, okay, he's going to make 10 burger at a go. Okay, he's going to show that he's going to do well. And he's going to make 10 burger and he's going to use 1000 gram. My question is, was he productively efficient? He used 1000 gram. Huh? For one burger, you have to use 100. For 10, he used 1000. So is he productively efficient? Exactly. So I can tell, okay, this fellow is productively efficient. Cool. Because he is using his resources properly. But let's say, guys, I am very new and this is during the corona period. There's only just one customer who needs only one burger. Guys, that means how many burgers should I make? I should make only one burger. So what happened over here is I produced more than what's needed. I produced 10 burger, but I should have produced only one burger. Allocative efficiency means you're producing one burger. Because now I have my chicken. Now let's say I have my how do chicken look like? Okay, let's say I have my chicken. Now if I have my chicken, guys, it is one of my resource. So I'm going to allocate my chicken. That was Okay, let's say I'm going to allocate my chicken to make food. Allocative efficiency means you are allocating the chicken to make the right amount of food. Do you get it, guys? Just because I get the chicken, just because of that, Ravish cannot go and make 1,100 units. Sorry, Ravish cannot go and make 10 units. If I have one customer, if I allocate it to make one burger, that means I am allocatively efficient. So allocative efficiency technically means technically logically means you're allocating resources to make the right amount of output. The right amount of output, not more or less. Guys, give me a minute. Okay, sorry guys, sorry, got a call. But I think Jennifer sent a message. Guys, do most of you all have connection issues? No, right? If you all have, do let me know. Okay, guys, great to hear that. Okay, guys, and in economics, if they ask you when do we attain allocative efficiency, it's like this. It is a scenario where the price equals something called the marginal cost. Now, technically, if we are going to see, okay, if I'm to say a company has attained allocative efficiency, now if I say, okay, I have attained allocative efficiency, it's mean like this. Logically, it means I produce the right amount of content. For example, okay, let's say you have a birthday party and you want some pastries, and if you require 100 pastry, allocative efficiency means I'm making 100 pastry. That's the logic behind it. But technically, how we are going to check it out is it is where the price of the product equals marginal cost of product. Guys, don't worry about marginal cost because we'll be focusing on marginal cost a lot more when we are doing production function. We're going to do another chapter. So I'll just brief on what marginal cost is. Guys, marginal cost means additional cost. Simple as that. Now, let's say, okay, I'm going to make one food. Let's say my cost is going to be 100. Let's say I'm going to make two units of food. Exactly, Sachira. Let's say I'm going to make 2 units of food. Now let's say because I'm going to make 2 units of food, my total cost will become maybe rupees 190. Maybe I'm going to make 3 food. Because of that, maybe my total cost will increase to 260. Guys, marginal cost means just the additional cost. Now you can see when output increased from 1 to 2, my cost increased by 90. So I will tell the marginal cost of the second food is 90. When output increased from 2 to 3, my cost became 260 from 190. So what's my marginal cost, guys? It changed from 190 to 260. Yeah? 190 to 260. That means what is my additional cost? Exactly. My additional cost is 70. So guys, this is called the marginal cost. So marginal cost means the additional cost of producing an extra unit. Hatfi, like you started with margin utility, but it's like this. That is school syllabus, but in the Cambridge syllabus it comes in this way. But so I think you all will be doing that lesson somewhere in a month or two. This particular lesson. Okay, Sakib, I'll send it. Don't worry, I'll send it to you. So guys, allocate efficiency means you're producing the right amount of output, and to see whether you achieve allocate efficiency, it is their price equals marginal cost. Guys, now let's say like this. Let's say a consumer, and let's say there's a producer. If consumer is buying a product, he pays the price. If consumer is buying a product, yeah, Sachin, I'm going according to Cambridge syllabus. Okay, if consumer is buying the price, he pays. Sorry, if consumer is buying a product, he pays the price. Okay, let's say same shawarma. Let's say it's 300 rupees. Consumer will pay 300 rupees. That's the cost for consumer. On the other hand, guys, a producer, to earn the 300 bucks, he produces the burger. When he produces the burger, he incurs a cost. So for the additional for every burger he produces, he incurs an additional cost. This additional cost is called marginal cost. Okay, now see like this. This part is where people do not understand most of the time. Now, in a market, we have consumer and producer. Consumer will buy the product. Producer will produce the product. When consumer buys the product, he pays the price. When producer produces the product, he incurs the cost. Guys, do products come magic automatically? No, right? You got to produce a product, no. Meaning whenever you produce a product, you incur a cost. That cost is the additional cost we call the marginal cost. So guys, price equals marginal cost means it is where the cost incurred by the consumer equals the cost incurred by the producer. Because guys, what is the cost incurred by the consumer? If you are a consumer, when you're buying a product, what's the cost you incur? If you're going to buy the product, what do you pay? When you buy a product, okay, you incur opportunity cost, but what do you pay? Exactly. The cost incurred by the consumer is the price of the product. Now, if you look, if you see that the burger in the menu is 300 rupees, now there's this shop called, okay, I forgot the name. Sakib knows it more. So let's say, okay, you see the price of the burger as 300 bucks. Now, if you look at the price as 300 bucks, the price you are going to pay is the cost. No, if the price is 200 bucks, that means the cost is 200. If the price is 300 bucks, the cost is 300. So the cost for the consumer is the price he or she is going to pay. Yes, Rehan. And if I ask you the cost for the producer, whenever producer makes that extra burger, what is that cost he incurs? What do we call that cost? Every time the producer makes that extra burger, he incurs a cost. What's that cost? Exactly, it's called marginal cost. So guys, if I'm to technically explain this in economics, allocative efficiency is where the price of the product equals marginal cost. So if I ask you what is the price, price is the cost incurred by the consumer. Because for example, if a Rolex is 10 million rupees, the cost is the price you're going to pay 10 million bucks. If a Casio is 1000 rupees, the cost is the 1000 rupees you're going to incur. So price equals MC means the cost incurred by the consumer is equal to the cost incurred by the producer. So attaining allocative efficiency means it is the point at which the cost of the consumer equals the cost of the producer. Do you understand, guys? Perfect, guys, perfect. So allocative efficiency is where price equals MC. This emphasizes that it is necessary that the right products are produced in an economy. That means the quantity of products produced with scarce resources that leads to best satisfaction for consumers. So we allocate efficiency means we look at customers' point of view. If customer needs one burger, you give them one burger. You don't just make 110 burger. That means you are producing more than what is required, meaning you are very inefficient. Like, you know, you're going to sell only one, but you're making 10, like which is like totally in vain, useless. In other words, our businesses in the economy supplying products that are required to meet needs and wants. Meaning our businesses producing exactly what the consumer wants and exactly what the consumer needs. This is related to satisfaction or utility that customers get from the consumption of particular product. We'll be doing that while doing marginal utility, guys. This arises when the price of the product equals the marginal cost of the product. Marginal cost is the additional cost of producing an extra product. So basically, guys, price equals MC means cost incurred by consumer equals the cost incurred by producer. This explains the situation where okay, this particular point you don't have to worry much, Hatfi, the third point, because this part of sorry, the next chapter. Sachin, I have questions in the last page. This and there's a question right below this also. So we know, Hatfi, listen to this. We know allocative efficiency is where the price of the product equals marginal cost. So it shows what I explained. Price equals marginal cost. Price equals marginal cost means price is the cost incurred by the consumer. Whenever consumer buys the product, he pays the price. And marginal cost is the cost incurred by the producer. Guys, look at this particular point. This explains the situation where the value put on the resources by the producer is exactly equal to the value put on the product produced by the resource by the consumer. Guys, now think like this. Now, if I say my marginal cost is rupees 100, if I say the marginal cost is rupees 100, basically that is the cost of producing, no? Meaning my cost of input. Meaning my value of input. So basically marginal cost is the value for the producer. Because marginal cost is the additional cost. Additional cost is the extra cost you incur. Why did you incur that extra cost? Because you're going to use that extra resources, that value of input. Guys, on the other hand, I can also say price is the value imposed by the producer. Now guys, now let's say, okay, let's take Rolex and Casio. Let's say you're going to sell a Rolex for 1 million rupees and you're going to sell a Casio for 1 million rupees. Which one would people generally buy, guys? Okay, both are sold at the same price, huh? Will people go with the Rolex or Casio? Exactly, Sachira. People will go with Rolex. Now Casio will tell, okay, mine, I'm also selling a watch. Why can't you buy from me? Even I will put diamonds and sell. But guys, you can see that the price reflects the value you have put on the product. The reason you're ready to pay 1 million for a Rolex and not for a Casio is because you impose a higher value for Rolex. Just like this, okay. If you look, take a Vivo and an Apple phone, you can't sell both the phone for 150,000 because you are ready to pay 150,000 for Apple but not for Vivo. You are ready to pay 150,000 for Apple but not for Vivo because you have imposed a higher value for Apple but not for Vivo. It's the brand, it's the quality, exactly. So guys, basically, the price you are ready to pay for a product is the value you have put on the product. Because that's the reason you are ready to pay the price, no? Now, if you go to Shangri-La, you are ready to pay 4,000 for a buffet. But if you go to a Pettikade, let's say they are giving the same food and they are giving a buffet, but you won't be ready to pay 4,000 because you are valuing it different. So basically, price also shows the value you have imposed on a particular product. Understood? Cool, guys. Great. PPC can be used to illustrate the concept of productive efficiency in an economy. It can, just give me a minute. It can also be used to illustrate allocative efficiency, but only if the preferences are known. Guys, this question, I will explain it. Don't worry, I'll put a question mark because I will do it. I'm putting a question mark because I'll explain it. I just read it. Don't worry about it. Guys, can you all do this table? So guys, let's look to this particular question and you can do it. Hence, it could be concluded that all points on the PPC are productively efficient and point that shows allocative efficiency depends on consumer preference. Let's look at that. And then if you let's finish this question, guys. From the table allow, allocative efficiency takes place at the output level. We know that allocative efficiency is where price equals marginal cost. And if you look at this particular question, now if you look at a price, quantity of 1, price is 5, MC is 3. So that's obviously not the answer. So if you do like that, you can clearly see the answer is at a quantity of 3. So you can see at a quantity of 3, price is equal to 5, MC is equal to 5. So price, the additional cost for the consumer equals marginal cost, the additional cost to the producer at a quantity of 3. So that is the point where we achieve allocative efficiency. The answer is 3. And then guys, let's do some of these easier questions. So as I explained, remember guys, productive efficiency looks at the input that's used and allocative efficiency looks at the output that's produced. So as I told, if you're productively efficient, the meaning of that is if I'm productively efficient,
It means I'm using less resources to produce the maximum output. If I'm allocatively efficient, it means I'm producing the right amount of output as required by the consumer. It will satisfy the human needs and wants. For example, if consumer requires 20 units, I end up producing 20 units. So guys, let's look at this question. Let's assume you require 1.5 meter of material to stitch a cloth, and there is a demand for 10 units of cloth. If we use 30 meter of materials to stitch 20 clothes, then are we productively and allocatively efficient? Let's look at productive efficiency and allocative efficiency alone. Okay, now we can see how many clothes did they stitch? It's 20. Now it's clear that 20 is more than the required amount of 10. That means we are allocatively inefficient. And then if you see, they have used 30 materials, and when it comes to productive efficiency, we look at the number of input. Now for 20 clothes, for each cloth we take 1.5. That means for 20 clothes, we should have taken 20 to 1.5, that's 30. And did we take 30? Yes, we did. So are we productively efficient? Yeah, we are. And then look at the next question. If we use 18 meter of materials to stitch 10 clothes, then are we productively and allocatively efficient? Okay, 18 meters, 10 clothes. Productive efficiency, allocative efficiency. So you can see you stitch 10 clothes. Allocatively efficient because we require 10 clothes. And for 10 clothes, we are supposed to take 1.5 meter each, 10 into 1.5. That's 15. But how much did we take? We took 18. So we took more than what's required. So we were not productively efficient. So productive efficiency is a no. And then the last one, if we use 15 meters to stitch 10 clothes. Okay, we stitch 10 clothes. So we are productively efficient. Sorry, we are allocatively efficient. And for 10 clothes, we saw earlier, we should take 1.5 material, that is 15 meters. And we took 15 meters. Therefore, we are productively efficient as well. Okay. So let's look into this. Are all points on the PPC productively efficient? Yes, because all point on the PPC means we are producing the maximum output possible. If you are producing the maximum output, it means we are productively efficient. We are using all our resources to the maximum. Are all points on the PPC allocatively efficient? No, because we told that when it comes to allocative efficiency, consumer preference should be known. Just because we can produce 100 units of clothes and we end up producing 100 units of clothes, it's not being allocatively efficient. For us to be allocatively efficient, we should know what the consumer prefers, what the consumer wants, and we should produce at that quantity. If consumer requires 10 units of clothes, then the point on the PPC that produces 10 units of clothes show that we are allocatively efficient. So guys, let's quickly do, okay, let's say we have a PPC and maybe we have clothes and tea. Let's keep it simple. And let's assume this is the PPC and I'll mark some points. Point A, point B, point C. Now first question. Point A, B and C are on the PPC. If we are on those points, are we productively efficient? Yeah, we are. Because if we are on the PPC, we are productively efficient. But when it comes to allocative efficiency, we can see, okay, maybe here we produce 2 units of clothes. Here we produce 10 units of clothes. Here we produce 15 units of clothes. So every point we are producing clothes. But all the points are not allocatively efficient, but productively efficient. For us to be allocatively efficient, we can see consumers require 10 units of clothes. And only at point B, we produce 10 units of clothes. So we can say when it comes to what does it say about productive efficiency, allocative efficiency, only point B is allocatively efficient, while A and C are productively efficient, but not allocatively efficient. All right, guys. So let's call it out for the day.